Hello students. So in this lecture in among carbohydrate metabolism, we will be learning about glycogen metabolism. So let's see about it in detail. So what is first we will see what is glycogen, why its metabolism is important here. So there are two important pathways in glycogen metabolism as you could see here in the diagram. That is these two pathways are just opposite to each other like as shown here in this diagram. So we will be seeing these two major pathways, glycogenesis and glycogenolysis, which are involved in synthesis and breakdown of glycogen, and a disease associated with it, that is glycogen storage disease, or in short it is also called as GSD. So we will be seeing that in this lecture. So first of all, what is glycogen? So glycogen is a polysaccharide, as you could see here in the structure which is provided here. It is having n number of glucose units, and these glucose units are in the two way. The one is in the straight chain form and the other one is the branching form. So in the straight chain it forms 1,4 glycosidic linkage, as you could see here. This is the 1,4 glycosidic linkage, and the branching is through 1,6 glycosidic linkage. So in this way these two glycosidic linkages are present in the structure of glycogen. Now, in animals, glycogen is one of the preferred storage form of energy, and most of the glycogen which is stored in animals, it is in liver. It is around 6 to 8%, while in muscles, around 1 to 2% of glycogen is stored. Now, the enzymes which are required for glycogen metabolism, like for its synthesis and breakdown, those are present in cytosol. So the major pathways which are involved in glycogen metabolism, those occurs in cytosol, the formation as well as its breakdown. Then next, what are the important functions which are associated with glycogen? So it is having two important functions, like the liver glycogen is important to maintain the blood glucose level in between the meals, and secondly the muscle glycogen, it is important for the contraction of muscles, so it is going to provide a fuel for that purpose. Then comes the next point, like why glycogen is the storage form of energy, why not others? So it is having some important considerations, like glycogen can be rapidly metabolized, it can be rapidly mobilized. Then a second thing, glycogen can generate energy in the absence of oxygen also. And next is that some vital organ like brain, it is dependent on continuous supply of glucose. It requires continuous supply of glucose, and that can be provided by glycogen. So these are some important points. That's why glycogen is the current or saving account of energy in human body. Now next we will see what is glycogenesis. As the term is saying, glycogen genesis means generation of glycose, synthesis of glycogen. So how it takes place? So glucose units are added one by one and the glycogen chain is produced. Now, in this process, there is first of all phosphorylation of glucose, followed by there is some conversion of UDP to UTP. Some energy components are involved in that. So let's see the pathway here. So first of all, you could see that glucose is converted into glucose 6-phosphate. The step is common as we see in glycolysis pathway. In the presence of glucokinase or hexokinase, it leads to formation of glucose 6-phosphate, and one molecule of ATP is consumed here. Then in the presence of phosphoglucomutase, it gets converted to glucose 1-phosphate. Now this glucose 1-phosphate is required here, and this gets converted into uridine diphosphate glucose, and that is UDPG. So this is the first product which is produced here. So that is the step 1 of glycogenesis pathway, and in presence of this UDP glucose pyrophosphatase enzyme, this UDPG formation takes place. In this step, one UTP is utilized, and that is helping us to produce UDPG. So this is step 1, that is synthesis of UDP glucose or synthesis of UDPG. Then the second step, that is the primer requirement is there so that glycogenesis could be initiated. So from this step onwards, glycogenesis will be initiated, And in this step, a small fragment of already available glycogen is used, and it acts as a primer, and it initiates this glycogenesis or glycogen synthesis. Now here what happens, if there is no glycogen primer is available, then a specific protein named glycogenine can be also used as a primer, and it acts as a acceptor of glucose from UDPG. So this UDPG is going to donate this attached glucose to the primer molecule or to some other protein like glucoprotein, and then the glycogenesis will be initiated. The hydroxyl group of the amino acid tyrosine of glycogenine is the site at which the initial glucose unit can be attached, and the enzyme glycogen initiator synthase, that is glycogen synthase, because it is initiating the synthesis, that's why it can be called as glycogen initiator synthase. So it transfers the first molecule of glucose to glycogenine, and then the glycogenine itself takes up a few glucose residues to form the fragment of primer. So in this way also this glycogenesis can be initiated. So this is the step 2 of glycogenesis. Then in step 3, that is glycogen synthesis by the help of enzyme glycogen synthase. So this is responsible here, this enzyme glycogen synthase is responsible for the formation of 1,4-glycosidic linkages also, and it is going to transfer the glucose from UDPG to the non-reducing end of glycogen, and it is going to form the alpha-1,4 linkages. So in this way the unbranched structure, the straight chain structure will be produced. So in this way glycogen synthesis will be uh, continued. Then there is the step 4, that is the branching stage, where the branching will take place and the actual glycogen will be produced. So here like the glycogen synthase, it can catalyze the synthesis of linear unbranched molecule which is having alpha-1,4 glycosidic linkages. Now it is required to have it branch structure, so that is initiated by this enzyme, branching enzyme. So the formation of branches will be brought about by the action of this branching enzyme. It is also called as glucosyl alpha 1,4 transferase enzyme. Sorry, glucosyl 4,6 transferase enzyme. Now this enzyme will transfer the small fragment of approximately 4 to 8 glucose units residues, and those will be transferred from non-reducing end of glycogen chain, and another glucose residue where it is linked by alpha 1,6 bond will be performed. So this task will be performed. Now this will lead to formation of new non-reducing end besides the existing one, and glycogen will be further elongated. So in this way the glycogen branched and a linear structure is produced in these two steps by the help of enzyme glycogen synthase and the branching enzyme, that is glycosyl alpha 1,4,6 transferase, because there is this linkage. So that's why 4,6 transferase, it is transferring it to 6 carbon, that's why. Now this overall reaction you could summarize as n number of glucose units will be used, then there will be addition of some ATPs, and then there will be formation of this glycogen. Along with that there will be generation of some ADP and phosphates will be generated. So in this way this glycogenesis pathway will lead to formation of glycogen. Then we will see the next pathway which is involved in glycogen metabolism, that is glycogenolysis. So glycogenolysis is going to be opposite of glycogenesis. Here there is going to be degradation of the glycogen so that there will be formation of glucose molecules. Now in this process, first of all, there will be degradation of stored glycogen which is there in liver and in muscles. This pathway is irreversible, and secondly the enzymes, as I told you, like in glycogenesis the enzymes are in cytosol. Similarly the enzymes required for degradation of glycogen are in cytosol, so it takes place in cytosol. and like there was formation of those alpha 1,4 linkages and alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkages. Here those linkages will be broken so that individual or a separate monomer of glucose can be released. Now let's see the steps of glycogenolysis. So in step 1, the glycogenolysis begins, and for that purpose, the important enzyme here is glycogen phosphorylase. So this is an essential enzyme, and it initiates the this breakdown glycogen phosphorylase. So what is its important role? It catalyzes the phosphorylated cleavage of glycosidic bonds. So this enzyme glycogen phosphorylase is responsible for breaking of alpha 1,4 glycosidic bonds, and it will release glucose molecule one at a time from the non-reducing end, so that uh, we could have the end with free 4-hydroxyl group. So in this way, the linear chains will be broken and the glucose molecules will be released one by one. And this step does not consume any ATP, but an orthophosphate is used to yield glucose 1-phosphate. So this is about the step 1 of glycogenolysis. Now, when we see that what are the other enzymes which are involved in that, so like the branching enzyme was there in case of glycogenesis, here in glycogenolysis, the debranching enzyme helps to transfer, or it helps to break the alpha 1,6 linkages, and the glucose monomeric units can be released. So it is having these two important enzymes over here, glycogen phosphorylase and the debranching enzymes. So in this way, when these two linkages are broken, there will be release of a free glucose unit, and later on this released glucose gets converted into glucose 6-phosphate, and glucose can be can entered into the like the glycolysis pathway, or in the later on it will go into Krebs cycle. So in this way glucose is provided, and in the next part we will see the regulation of glycogenesis and glycogenolysis. Like this process should have some regulation. So these are controlled by two important enzymes. The first one is glycogen synthase, which was going to initiate the glycogenesis, and the second important enzyme is glycogen phosphorylase, which initiates the breakdown of glycogen. So this process takes place regularly in the body, and those need to be regulated, and for that purpose these three important regulating mechanisms are there. The first one is allosteric regulation, hormonal regulation, and in the influence of calcium, these enzymes can be regulated, and in this way these two pathways can be controlled. Now, in case of allosteric regulation, these pathways are regulated, or the regulation is based on the availability of certain substrates, like when the raw material which is required for synthesis of glycogenesis, if it is available, the glycogenesis will be initiated. Once those are consumed, it will automatically stop. So, in this way, the allosteric regulation acts. While in case of hormonal regulation, certain hormones are responsible for controlling these enzymes, like the hormone epinephrine and glucagon. They bring about glycogenolysis by their action of glycogen phosphorylase. While if this glycogen synthesis is inhibited, as it is inhibited by epinephrine, it also and glucagon, so they will activate glycogen synthase, and in this way when it is inactivated, the glycogenesis will be stopped. So that is hormonal regulation. During muscle contraction, the calcium is released, and under the influence of calcium, this glycogen phosphorylase is activated, And in this way, the glycogenolysis is initiated when there is muscle contraction. So these are the three important mechanisms which are involved in the regulation of these two metabolic pathways of glycogen. Now the next one is, what are the diseases associated with glycogen storage? As we have seen, the importance of glycogen storage. Now, if there will be any defects in this process, it is going to lead to some pathological disorders. So those are termed as glycogen storage disease or GSD. So these metabolic defects, these are related to glycogen synthesis, or those may be related to glycogen degradation. When we talk about GSD, where or it can be also termed as glycogenosis, it results maybe due to hereditary deficiency of some of the enzyme which is involved in synthesis, or maybe in the degradation of glycogen. Now, what will happen in those cases? There might be deposition of normal or abnormal type of glycogen in the tissues, and definitely it is going to lead to some serious disorder. So here all those deficiency disorders are elaborated in this diagrammatic picture, where we could see that there are these 5 types of GSDs. One, which is we could correlate here, where glucose is produced from glucose 6-phosphate in the presence of glucose 6-phosphatase enzyme. So in the absence of this enzyme, this type 1 GSD is observed. Then type 2 is where glycogen unbranched is getting converted into glucose plus the polysaccharide unit in the presence of lysosomal alpha glucosidase enzyme. So in the absence of this enzyme, this GSD type 2 is observed. Then here we could see that type 3, where the limit dextrin is getting converted into glucose 1-phosphate, that is the last step of your glycogen metabolism. So here the debranching enzyme is lacking. So there will be no formation of glucose 1-phosphate or glucose. Then that is type 3 of GSD. Then in type 4, there is absence of glucosyl 4,6 transferase. So there will be no formation of alpha 1,6 linkages, and there will be no glycogen synthesis. And type 5th and 6th can be seen here, like in muscle and in liver, when there is deficiency of glycogen phosphorylase enzyme. So there will be no breakdown of glycogen will be initiated, and glycogenolysis won't happen. So that is the type 5th and type 6th of GSD. And here is the type 7, where glucose 6-phosphate gets converted to fructose 1,6 bisphosphate in the presence of 6-phosphofructokinase. So the deficiency of this enzyme leads to type 7 of GSD, or glycogen storage disorder. So these are so in this table we could see a summary of all the glycocytic storage disorders or diseases. As I told you, there are 7 types of glycogen storage diseases, and those are named as von Gertz, that is type 1, which is associated with deficiency of glucose 6-phosphatase. Then here is type 2, which is termed as POMS disorder, which is associated with deficiency of lysosomal alpha glucosidase enzyme. Then there is Cories, which is type 3, which is related to deficiency of debranching enzyme, so that there will be altered glycogen structure, hypoglycemia will be observed. Then the next type 4 is Anderson's disease, which is associated with deficiency of branching enzyme. Then we have type 5, that is McArdle's, where muscle phosphorylase is absent. Then there is type 6, which is named as Hirsch disease, where liver phosphorylase deficiency is encountered. And the next one is type 7, that is termed as the Ruiz disease, and here phosphofructokinase is deficient. And these are the various clinical consequences associated with it, like lactic acidemia, hyperlipidemia, hypoglycemia. Then in addition to that, in POMS, there is storage of glycogen granules in lysosomes. Then in Cories, the glycogen structures get altered, or there is hypoglycemia associated with. Similarly, in Anderson's, the glycogen structures get altered. In McArdle's, there is excess muscle glycogen starts getting deposited as there is a lack of phosphorylase enzyme, so the glycogenolysis doesn't get initiated, and that leads to cramps in the muscle due to exercise and fatigue. Then, in the absence of liver phosphorylase, the HERS shows hypoglycemia, and here this manifestation is not as much as we could see in case of the Coris disorder or in case of type 1. So this is with HERS disease. Then in Taru's, the hemolysis or muscle cramps are also observed, and these are the organs which are associated with these deficiency disorders. So these are all different types of GSDs. So I hope the various pathways, like these two pathways of glycogen metabolism, that is glycogenolysis and glycogenesis, are understood. And these deficiency disorders, these are related to the enzymes which are involved in glycogen metabolism pathways. So thank you for joining the lecture. Take care.